Escalating tensions in the Middle East. Rubio's high-stakes visit to Israel amid fallout from Qatar strike, and the Emergency Arab-Islamic Summit's push for unified retaliation. Jerusalem, Doha, September 15, 2025. In a region already teetering on the brink of wider conflict, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's arrival in Israel on Sunday marked a pivotal moment of diplomatic maneuvering and unwavering alliance amid Israel's intensifying military operations in Gaza and the controversial airstrike on Hamas leaders in Qatar. Rubio's visit, which included a symbolic stop at Jerusalem's western wall alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, underscored Washington's unwavering support for Israel, even as global condemnation mounts over what many see as Israel's reckless expansion of its military footprint beyond its borders. But as Rubio navigated these fraught discussions, leaders from across the Arab and Islamic world converged in Doha for an emergency summit, signaling a potential shift toward coordinated retaliation that could reshape global alliances, energy markets, and security dynamics. This unfolding drama raises critical questions. Why is the U.S. doubling down on its support for Israel at a time when its actions risk alienating key allies in the Gulf? What concrete steps might the Arab-Islamic Summit take to counter Israel, and could this involve military cooperation among Islamic nations, including powerhouses like Pakistan? What would be the ripple effects on the world economy if Arab states revived the specter of an oil embargo? And behind closed doors, what insider agendas are driving these high-level gatherings? This in-depth report delves into the intricacies of these events, providing a critical lens on the motivations, implications, and potential outcomes. Rubio's visit, a show of solidarity or a diplomatic tightrope? Rubio touched down at Ben Gurion International Airport near Lod on September 14, greeted by Israeli officials amid heightened security. His itinerary was packed. A private meeting with Netanyahu at the Western Wall, followed by discussions on the Gaza conflict, the fallout from Israel's September 9 strike on a Hamas compound in Doha, and broader regional security threats, including Iran's nuclear ambitions. In a joint press conference, Rubio reiterated U.S. commitment, stating, "The people of Gaza deserve a better future, but that better future cannot begin until Hamas is eliminated." Netanyahu, in turn, praised President Donald Trump's administration as Israel's greatest friend, framing Rubio's presence as a clear message of solidarity. Critically, one must ask, is this visit truly about advancing peace, or is it a calculated effort to bolster Israel's position amid growing international isolation? Rubio's remarks linking the Qatar strike to rising global support for Palestinian statehood suggest a preemptive defense of Israel's actions. He warned that recognitions of Palestine by Western nations embolden Hamas, a stance that critics argue ignores the root causes of the conflict, such as Israel's ongoing settlement expansions and military occupations. Why, for instance, did Rubio attend the inauguration of a controversial tunnel project in Silwan, a Palestinian neighborhood in East Jerusalem? This move, which routes religious tourists under Palestinian areas to holy sites, has been decried as a provocation that undermines Palestinian claims to the city. Analysts question whether U.S. endorsement of such projects signals tacit approval for annexation plans in the West Bank, as leaked reports from Rubio's meetings indicate discussions on this very topic. Another pressing query. How does Rubio reconcile U.S. displeasure over the Qatar strike, described by Washington as a unilateral escalation, with continued military aid to Israel? The attack, which killed senior Hamas figures but also caused civilian casualties in Doha, disrupted ceasefire negotiations where Qatar played a mediating role. President Trump reportedly expressed frustration over the lack of prior notice, yet Rubio's visit proceeded without apparent conditions. Critics, including regional experts, argue this highlights a double standard. The U.S. condemns violations of sovereignty when perpetrated by adversaries like Iran but offers muted criticism when allies like Israel are involved. Furthermore, with Israeli strikes intensifying in northern Gaza, flattening buildings and claiming at least 13 lives on the day of Rubio's arrival, what assurances did he seek regarding civilian protections? 15. Netanyahu's refusal to rule out further strikes in foreign countries raises the specter of broader regional war, yet Rubio's public statements focused more on eradicating Hamas than de-escalation. From a broader perspective, Rubio's trip feels like a solidarity visit, at a time when Israel faces unprecedented scrutiny. 24. With tensions escalating after the Doha incident, questions abound about U.S. strategy. Is Washington preparing for a potential confrontation with Iran, as Netanyahu alluded to Trump's bold leadership in striking Tehran's nuclear sites? 27. Or is this a bid to contain fallout from the Abraham Accords, which have survived the Gaza war but now face strain from Arab publics outraged by Israel's actions? 66. Critically, Rubio's planned follow-up visit to Qatar on September 16 suggests an attempt to mend fences, but skeptics wonder if it's too little, too late. 23. The Emergency Arab-Islamic Summit, from rhetoric to retaliation. As Rubio conferred in Jerusalem, the spotlight shifted to Doha, where Qatar hosted an extraordinary joint summit of the Arab League and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, on September 15. Zero convened in response to Israel's airstrike on Qatari soil, the first such attack on a Gulf state. The gathering drew heads of state and representatives from over 50 nations, including key players like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Iran, Egypt, and Pakistan. 7. Qatar's prime minister urged a unified front, framing the strike as a violation of sovereignty that threatens the entire region. 2. The summit's agenda, according to insider sources, extends beyond condemnation of the Doha attack to address the broader Israeli-Palestinian conflict, including Gaza's humanitarian crisis and Israel's alleged expansionist mentality. 42. Critical questions here. What tangible actions will emerge? Past summits, like the 2023 Riyadh meeting, produced resolutions but little enforcement. This time, however, the direct assault on Qatar, a U.S. ally and host to American military bases, has galvanized attendees. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan highlighted ongoing contacts with Israel's neighbors to counter Israeli expansionism, emphasizing not just Palestine but the weakening of regional states. 43. Inside the summit halls, discussions reportedly focused on three pillars: diplomatic isolation of Israel, economic pressure, and military coordination. Egyptian officials held pre-summit talks with Iraqi counterparts, signaling efforts to bridge Arab divides. 54. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, upon arrival, positioned Turkey as a counterbalance, advocating for a united stance. 42. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian attended, potentially pushing for anti-Israel alliances amid Tehran's own tensions with Israel. 38. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's participation underscores Islamabad's role, with pledges to amplify Palestinian voices and condemn Israeli atrocities. 40. Critically, what would the summit do? Draft resolutions may call for suspending normalization with Israel, as warned by Reuters sources, threatening the Abraham Accords. 4. More radically, talks of a unified Islamic response could involve activating OIC military mechanisms, such as a joint task force. Pakistan, with its nuclear capabilities and battle-hardened army, could play a pivotal role in any cooperative retaliation, perhaps providing training, intelligence, or even troops for peacekeeping or defensive operations in Gaza. Insiders reveal debates on forming an Islamic World Army, drawing on past proposals for OIC-led forces to protect Muslim holy sites and counter aggression. 6. But skepticism abounds. Historical divisions between Sunni Arab states and Shia Iran, or between moderates like the UAE and hardliners like Turkey, could dilute outcomes. One attendee anonymously noted, "This isn't just rhetoric. Qatar's attack has crossed a red line, but unity is fragile." Retaliation through Islamic cooperation, a hypothetical escalation involving Pakistan. If the summit yields concrete retaliation, cooperation with an Islamic World Army could mark a seismic shift. Envision a coalition modeled after NATO but rooted in OIC frameworks, where Pakistan contributes its elite special forces and nuclear deterrence to deter Israeli advances. Joint exercises with Turkish drones, Saudi funding, and Egyptian logistics could target Israeli supply lines or enforce no-fly zones over Gaza. Critically, why include Pakistan? Its military prowess and strategic location make it a linchpin. Sharif's Doha pledges suggest readiness to deploy assets if framed as humanitarian defense. 58. Effects on the world would be profound. Geopolitically, this could fracture U.S. alliances, forcing Washington to choose between Israel and Gulf partners hosting American bases. Economically, Heightened tensions might spike oil prices, as seen in recent Iran-Israel escalations where Brent crude surged. 69 Security-wise, a broader conflict risks drawing in superpowers, with Russia or China backing anti-Israel factions. The oil blockade scenario, echoes of 1973 and global repercussions. A key, what if, from the summit. What if Arab states block oil exports to Israel and its supporters, reviving the 1973 embargo? 63 Insider discussions in Doha reportedly broached this, with Saudi Arabia's past reluctance noted but current outrage potentially overriding it. 68 Targeting the US, Europe, and other pro-Israel nations could have supplies, driving prices above $150 per barrel. For the world, this spells chaos. Inflation surges, stock markets plummet, and recessions loom. 62 Europe, reliant on Middle Eastern oil despite diversification, faces energy shortages, exacerbating winter crises and political instability. The US, more self-sufficient, still grapples with higher gas prices and supply chain disruptions. Critically, why now? The Doha strike provides justification, but OPEC's heterogeneity, non-Arab members like Venezuela, might resist. 64 Yet, if enacted, it could force negotiations, pressuring Israel to halt operations. Broader implications and the path forward. As Rubio departs Israel and the Doha summit concludes, the Middle East stands at a crossroads. Critical analysis reveals a pattern. U.S. support enables Israeli boldness, while Arab-Islamic unity, though nascent, could counter it through diplomatic, economic, and military means. The inside story. Power plays abound. Qatar seeks vengeance, Turkey regional influence, Iran anti-Israel leverage. Effects ripple globally. From energy shocks to realigned alliances, the stakes are immense. In this volatile narrative, one question lingers: will dialogue prevail, or will retaliation ignite a wider war? The world watches, breath held, as these events unfold.